human beings on the other side. Yes. Can you hear me now? Louise, Ruth, are you able to hear me now? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. All should be good. I know there's a slight lag there on the line. So hopefully you can hear me now. Just a thumbs up will be perfect. So we'll start again. Perfect. Right, I'll start again then. All right, you're very good to join because I know you're probably preparing or in the middle of your junior cycle mocks. So every so often we do a class here and I want to pick carefully, things that are really going to benefit you. We've done quite a few papers now and I've gone through, a general rule of thumb, always give 2 subpoints. But I've noticed that every single year since the introduction of the first junior cycle written exam for the new syllabus, a menu is coming up every single year. And because a menu is coming back every single year, well, that says to me I could actually get full marks on that menu if I prepare it well. So I'm going to highlight a few key things that are part of the marking scheme that will ensure that you will get your full marks. And we're going to do 5 sample menus here this evening. So every year since the introduction of the first junior cycle exam, there has been a question on menu planning. Now this new course, the new syllabus, was introduced in 2020. But there was no junior cert exam that year because of COVID, but certainly 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25, there has been a menu. And we're just going to see, is there, I suppose, a pattern, or maybe there's a menu that we should be looking at tonight that could potentially be on your junior cycle exam in June. So 2021, they asked us a 2-course menu for a family with a young child. So that's that one. It was a 2-course dinner, specifically family with young child. 2022, it was a 3-course breakfast menu. I don't know what junior cycle student has time to eat a 3-course breakfast menu, maybe at the weekend. And you see the way they specified at the weekend. 2023, it was a packed lunch for a teenager. Now, if you notice any patterns, throw it into the chat. It would be great to get a few people thinking. So we've been asked a dinner menu, a breakfast menu, a packed lunch. Then in 2024, we had to analyse a menu. They actually gave you a menu and you had to give your opinion on that menu. And then last year in 2025, we were back to a 2-course dinner again. So does anyone have any ideas what they're thinking? So 2-course dinner was in 21. 4 years later, there was a 2-course dinner in 2025. I'm looking at a packed lunch hasn't been asked in 3 years. And I'm also looking at they haven't asked a breakfast since 2022, which is 4 years. So tonight I'm going to do a high fibre breakfast. I'm going to look at a pregnant lady, a pregnant woman. I'm also going to look at a family, and I'm also going to look at a child on their own. So what do we note that we have to do? As a result of this, the fact that we've seen a menu for 5 years in a row now, junior cycle students must and should prepare what I call a bank of menus, because I don't know about you, but you're going to be on the spot. You'll be busy writing for an hour and a half and trying to think up of creative menus. Now, I have to say I've an absolute horror of menus that have things like a ham sandwich and an apple and a yogurt, and that's not at all creative. You want to show your creative side rather than just very plain, mundane food. Because one of the key things we want is on a menu, you want to choose food that that particular person would like. Like teenagers like fajitas, they like pasta bakes, they like pizzas, whereas older people would like things maybe like that are easy to eat. Because they don't want a lot of chewing. Maybe they have issues with their dentures. Things like maybe fish that is filleted, that is grilled or steamed, or maybe a cottage pie, shepherd's pie, etc. So before these sample menus can be prepared, we're going to look at a few key guidelines that need to be known. Firstly, all students must be familiar with the food pyramid. Now, not all teachers are as obsessed with me with the food pyramid, but I always feel I don't want my students to just write down a few foods on a page and hope for the best. I wanted to look, when the person is correcting the exam, that they can see that this student really understands how to prepare a balanced packed lunch, a 2-course dinner, a breakfast, whatever the case might be. So a food pyramid gives us a set of guidelines issued by the Department of Health that shows the different types and amounts of food needed for a healthy, balanced diet. You can find this on the website savefood.eu, but I presume you would also be able to find it in your home economics books. Now, when we look at the food pyramid, it does look a little bit complex, but if we try and simplify it, it's basically made up of what I would call shelves. And we have 6 shelves on the food pyramid. Now, the first shelf is our fruit and vegetable shelf. So fruit and vegetables. And you can see there that we should have anywhere between 5 to 7 servings a day of fruit and veg. Our next shelf is what we call the cereal group. Bread, pasta, couscous, orzo, noodles, potatoes, rice. 3 to 5. And to be honest, 3 is probably the best number to take here. And 5, you'd have to be quite active in order to get 5. Then we have what referred to as the 3 dairy, the milk, the yogurt, the cheese. Then we have 2 from the protein group. We have eggs, we have fish, we have milk, we have cheese. So there's an overlap here. Then the next shelf, number 5, small amounts of oils and fats like butter and other saturated fats, but try and have a balance between vegetable oils and between animal fats. And finally at the top, not every day, drinks and food high in fat, high in sugar and high in salt, what I would refer to as the treats. Ideally what they're saying is 1 to 2 a week. So I'll be honest with you, straight away put that out of your mind. Anytime you're asked to plan a menu, do not give any treats. So I go absolutely bananas, literally, when I see people putting down apple tart and cream or such a thing and ice cream. Avoid that completely. So none of those sugary treats. Avoid things like a pizza unless it's a homemade pizza. Avoid any type of processed food, especially ultra processed food. So that's our serving. Now, understanding the food pyramid, I always get my students to do this. So if you've got a sheet of paper, ideally you will have a ruler. I'm just going to draw out here for you breakfast, lunch and dinner. And I want you to divide. Now I'll make this a little bit neater before I post it up online tomorrow. So we have our breakfast, we have lunch, and we have dinner. So what they will expect is that dinner should have 2 courses, always. Also, I would put the food groups over here. How many servings? And we note that that equals 1 serving a day. So the easiest thing to do here is we said that you should have between 5 and 7 servings of fruit and veg. So I would have 2 servings at least of fruit and veg, 3 at lunch, 2 at dinner, or vice versa. Either way, you're going to have 7 servings. Next, 3 dairy. So I'd have 1 dairy, 1 dairy, 1 dairy. We said the average person should have 3 servings of cereal group. 1 serving of cereal, 1 serving of cereal, and 1 serving of cereal. And finally, 2 protein, 1 serving of protein at lunch and 1 serving of protein at dinner. Now, if you can do something like that, it means that if you're writing out a lunch, rather than writing random foods, make sure that you've lots of fruit and vegetables, more vegetables than fruit, because remember, fruits are naturally high in sugar. Make sure there's a dairy, there's a cereal and a protein. If you're asked dinner, they will automatically ask for junior cycle 2 courses. Now that could be, it could be a main course and it could be a dessert, or it could be a starter and a main course. What's important, we're going to read in a few minutes, is that you have them in the correct sequence. So don't put dessert before main course. Don't write the starter after the main course, or you will lose marks. So that's our food pyramid simplified for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And don't forget that we're all supposed to have 8 glasses of water a day as well. And I think that is much easier to understand than that. So what are we saying before we move on? We've looked at the food pyramid. It's very important when we're writing out our menus, and there will be a menu in 2026. We're going to cross out the top shelf of the food pyramid altogether. We're not going to talk about chocolate. We're not going to give them salty popcorn. We're not giving them cream. We're not giving them cheesecake. We're not giving them ice cream. No treats whatsoever in your menu. Then you're going to learn the breakdown of the food pyramid according to breakfast, lunch and dinner. So hypothetically, if you have broken out the food pyramid like this and you're asked in June, I'm only making this up because obviously I have no idea what's going to come up, and they ask you something like a high fibre breakfast, which we're going to do in a minute, you're going to maybe have a cereal, you might have a bowl of porridge. Dairy, you might mention that you have full fat milk. Fruit and vegetables, you might have blueberries sprinkled over your porridge. And then another one that you might include would be maybe a carrot and apple juice. So you've plenty of fruit and veg, carrot, apple juice, blueberries. You've got your dairy in your milk and you've got your cereal in your porridge. Rather than just randomly thinking, once you can tick, 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 say for example a lunch, and you're making a lunch for a teenager. So I'm going to look there, I need 1 cereal serving. So I'm going to say a whole meal pita bread. Protein, I'm going to have maybe grilled chicken. I'm going to have lettuce or rocket. I'm going to have baby vine tomatoes. I'm going to have cucumber. I might even put some fresh peppers in. Then I might have afterwards a yogurt with some raspberries. I have plenty of fruit and vegetables. I've got my pita bread for my cereal. I've my yogurt for my dairy, and it might be vanilla yogurt, I don't know. And then I have my chicken and the protein. So I think it's important, very important, that you link the food pyramid in with each of the different courses. So try and learn that off for your exam beforehand. So moving on then. When planning menus, these are absolute core points. First of all, the courses must be complete. In other words, the correct number of servings of food need to be present. So when you come to your dinner, they will expect, but your junior cycle students, so they will say to you a 2-course dinner, or they said a 3-course breakfast at the weekend. So 2 courses, and a dinner for 2 courses must include 4 food groups. And what I generally say to students is the main course should always have at least 3 food groups. Now this document will be uploaded to the notes section for junior cycle home economics tomorrow. I'll have it a little bit neater. So if you're not able to write this down tonight, don't worry about it. And then the 4th food group should be in the dessert or the starter. So I might have a chicken pasta bake with broccoli, and I'm going to maybe have corn on the cob as well. I've corn on the cob, I have broccoli, that'll be my fruit or vegetable group. I'm going to have my pasta for my cereal group, and I'm going to have my chicken. That's my 3 food groups: protein group, chicken, pasta, cereal group, and then I have vegetables like broccoli in the pasta bake, and then the corn on the cob. For the dessert, I'm going to definitely have to include the dairy group. So I might have, like I said, maybe a vanilla yogurt, but I want to have lots of fruit and vegetables, so I might have some fresh raspberries with that. So food pyramid, very, very important. So follow the food pyramid is basically what we're saying. Most students, I'll tell you straight up, when they're asked to write a menu, they literally just write random foods. That's not going to work for us at all. Secondly, the courses must be balanced. You don't want, for example, garlic bread and pasta and another carbohydrate food. A balanced diet has to have all 6 nutrients present, but in the correct proportions. So you don't want something like deep fried fish, deep fried chips, deep fried fritters, and ice cream for dessert. That would be a very unbalanced meal. So try and make sure that it's balanced. Thirdly, include a healthy drink. Do you know that there are marks going every single year for whatever menu you're asked, whether it's for a 2-course dinner, whether it's for a 3-course breakfast, whether it's for a packed lunch? There are specific marks allocated for a healthy drink. But the drink must be appropriate to the menu being asked. For example, if it were breakfast time, I would go for maybe a homemade smoothie. Now, we're going to read in a few minutes. This is where, again, students fall down. They write down something like lasagna and a salad, or chicken stir fry and whole wheat noodles. You must give the breakdown of a salad. What's in, so salad brackets, rocket, vine tomatoes, cucumber, raw peppers, or grated carrot. If you say chicken stir fry and vegetables and noodles, you need to list chicken stir fry, brackets, mange 2, baby corn. Maybe you're going to have, what else? Bamboo shoots or carrots or mushrooms, peppers. So be specific. If you write something down, I would even go so far as if somebody wrote homemade vegetable soup, I would put in brackets what those vegetables are. So avoid this general thing like something served with vegetables. Name the vegetables, name what's in the salad. If you write down an appropriate drink and you feel maybe it's for a packed lunch, or maybe it's the breakfast time, you want to give a homemade smoothie, don't just write down a green smoothie. Put in brackets spinach, apple, cucumber into the smoothie. Or maybe the smoothie, I always like to have smoothies half green, half full of spinach. So maybe you have spinach, raspberries, banana, and just list them. So that's important. So an appropriate drink, that is very important. That's NB, in fact. They will give marks for that. Next, they will give marks for the correct sequence. Like we said earlier, if it's a 2-course meal, you have to have the starter first and then you have the main course. Or you have the main course first, followed by the dessert. That's what I mean by the correct sequence. Very important. Nobody wants to be bored reading that menu, and especially the fact that we know they're going to have a menu. You know, try and think of creative foods. Even if you sat down one day for 15 minutes and wrote out lots of lovely descriptive words like char grilled chicken or steamed broccoli or I don't know, glazed something else or steamed whatever. So a variety of foods. You want lots of colour, lots of flavour, and a combination of textures. Use your imagination. Please don't have, like I said, I'm allergic to the ham sandwich, the apple and the carton of yogurt, and that's it. Or wholemeal bread with chicken or lettuce and tomato served with a glass of milk. You know, I think we can do a bit better than that. So here's what I mean. Rather than saying beef stir fry and noodles, beef stir fry, soy sauce and ginger, crunchy al dente vegetables. List the vegetables, the mange tout, the baby corn, the peppers, close brackets, fluffy rice, a creamy fish pie. Brackets, you might have salmon, you might have monkfish, you might have mussels, you might have prawns, close brackets. So name the pieces of fish in the fish pie. Crispy topping of mashed potato, fresh crisp salad, and then you would say what's in the salad. But the thing is, nice variety. Please don't be boring. Ensure that the chosen foods are age appropriate. So you're not going to give an older person a steak that they have issues maybe with their dentures, and they're going to have to try and, you know, they could have problems with arthritis, so they've got issues with their manual dexterity and finding it difficult. You want food that's easy to eat, and you want, for example, if it's a teenager involved in sport, you want clean food, high in protein, but you also want dishes that teenagers like. Like, I don't know too many teenagers, certainly as a mother, that you're going to give them steamed plaice and a white sauce or whatever. They turn their nose at it. So make sure it's age appropriate, or that it's food liked by that particular group. So I've given some examples, like homemade fish fingers, garden peas, sweet potato wedges for children. Pick them up. Children, that young kids, love to be able to pick things off a plate themselves. They can pick up the wedges, pick up the fish fingers. Teenagers, homemade fajitas, whole wheat flour tortillas. Tacos, shepherd's pie, fish cakes for an older person. So that's age appropriate, and they're like. NB, leave a space between each course. Don't have the information all just squashed together. And we'll look at the template in a minute that we have seen since 2021, 22, 23. For the last 5 years, they've given us the same template, and I have used some blank ones. The other thing is, which is important, state the method of cooking used. So I think it's good to include things like grilled this, steamed that, baked that. And so baked, poached, grilled, steamed. Again, it depends on the question that is asked. And finally then, I really am fanatical about students using the food pyramid. Please don't just throw random foods down on the page. Make sure that you learn what we had there earlier, know what should ideally, how many servings of each of the food groups should be going into breakfast time, lunch time, dinner time, and you can vary the fruit and veg number, but ideally speaking, try and pack as much fruit and vegetables, particularly vegetables, into every single meal, because I'm sure you've tried it. I think it's quite difficult if you're not to get 7 servings of fruit and veg in every day. You know what I mean by you have to be quite mindful to get that in. So leave space between each course. Name the components. This is something, again, very common mistake. Name the components of a salad. So list the different fruits or the vegetables, whether it's in a stir fry, whether it's in a soup, whether it's in a salad. And we've done the method of cooking there, so I would do that as well. Don't be general. So food pyramid and current dietary guidelines. So current dietary guidelines, which are in the food pyramid, would say we should only be having treats a couple of times a week, 1 or 2 treats a week. So please don't be using the apple tarts and the muffins and the ice cream and the cream or anything like that, or chocolate sauce. None of it. We're not allowed. It's not a treat day on the day you're writing the menu for your junior circle. Be careful, your menu takes into account any specific dietary requirements. Now, you're not Leaving Cert students, so I can't see them asking something like celiac disease or heart disease or that type of thing, because that would be a bit too complex. But be mindful who you are actually writing out the menu for. So if you've got a sheet of paper, either you can use the paper. I'd love if you could give me some ideas. Here is the template. You've seen that every single year for the last 5 years. So they give us plenty of space. So what I'm saying is to, from earlier, don't have your menu in the top half of that. Lots of space on that template, and make sure you leave space between your courses if you are asked a couple of courses. We're going to follow the food pyramid. We're going to have lots of colour, lots of variety. We're going to have a healthy drink. We're going to make sure it's balanced. And we're going to write a good menu. That's basically it. And this is for a child specifically, because I looked back there and for the last 5 years we haven't seen a child. So it's a 2-course dinner. Remember, we have to write in the correct sequence. Now, we can only write in blue or black pen in the exam. So you are allowed, if some of you are creative, you might like to decorate the menu a little bit if you felt like it, across the top, etc. But remember, you are not allowed to use gel pens, you're not allowed to use fluorescent pens, but you are allowed used coloured pencil. But there's no marks allocated for decoration of the actual menu. So to be honest, only if you'd time at the end and you just feel like, you know, presenting your menu in a little bit more attractive way. But other than that, don't put the time and effort into decorating the menu when there's no marks allocated, as I say, unless you've time at the end. So it's a 2-course dinner. So if it's going to be in sequence, I'm going to write, first of all, a main course. Now, I obviously would use a ruler in the exam. I'm going to leave plenty of space, and I'm going to go down as far as here, and I'm going to write my dessert. I'm going to also have to think about the foods that I'm going to choose need to be age appropriate. So I'm going with the homemade fish fingers that I had earlier, which are very nice, made with your panko crumbs. Now, homemade fish fingers, I'm going to have to name the fish. Don't have an average menu, have a fabulous menu. So I'm going with homemade cod fish fingers. Now I can pick any type of white fish, because most children like white fish because, you know, it's quite bland. It's not got that fishy flavour, if there is such a description of fish. So homemade cod fish fingers. The other thing is to go in order. What do I need for main course? Remember, I said to you earlier, all main courses, regardless of the age of the person, should have 3 food groups. So I'm going with homemade codfish fingers. I'm going with my sweet, I'm going to actually mention baked. And I'm going to say that these are baked as well. And I'm going to make use of my oven. So baked sweet potato wedges. Sweet potatoes, absolutely gorgeous, and they do have a low GI. Now you won't know what that is just yet, but sweet potato wedges keep people fuller for longer. And the fact that children are so active, we don't want them coming in, I'm hungry, in between their meals. We're going to say garden peas and sweet corn. I'm going to give frozen full-fat yogurt, and I'm going with vanilla yogurt, nice and descriptive. with a sliced fresh banana and kiwi. So I have 3 food groups in my main course. I have protein in the cod, I have cereal in the potato wedges, and I have vegetables in the peas and sweet corn. Dairy is my 4th food group. I have it in my dessert, but I have banana, kiwi, sweet corn and garden peas. I've left something out. I have it in the correct order or sequence. I think it's fairly descriptive. I didn't just say fish fingers and wedges and vegetables. I was very specific. Baked cod fish fingers, homemade, baked sweet potato wedges, garden peas, sweet corn niblets, which I can, if I want to be very specific. Full fat vanilla yogurt. Something missing. Anyone tell me what's missing there? I have colour, I have variety, I have the correct sequence, it's balanced, I've mentioned methods of cooking, I'm following the food pyramid, but there's something there that I said to you has to be there, and I will lose marks if it's not there. So far I've done everything right, but I'm not just finished yet. Could anyone suggest what have I left out of my menu that I said to you there earlier most definitely will get marks? I also feel that age approved. Well done, Ruth. Absolutely spot on. Remember we said earlier that you need to give a healthy drink that's appropriate. So Ruth, any suggestions, or does anyone else have a suggestion? And remember, it said that we should be age appropriate, so we're going with the child. Doesn't have to be way out. What would most parents give children? They're rapidly growing. Bones are getting longer. Any suggestions? What we might be able to give them? What would be considered, it's part of the marking scheme, a healthy drink? Anyone? If it's wrong, who cares? Obviously we're not going to give them a can of cola or a can of 7-Up. So we're going to give them carbonated drinks. I'm not a fan of orange juice. That just drives me mad. Every breakfast menu, orange juice, freshly squeezed orange juice, freshly squeezed orange juice. Orange juice, yeah, Emily, I think that's spot on. I'm going with my glass of milk. And do you know what I'm going to do? Because I'm a bit of a show-off, I am going to say the glass of milk, I'm going to put it in blue, because I know that they are going to specifically want a healthy drink. So there it is, glowing blue pen in the middle of all the black. I have the correct sequence, and ideally speaking, I should have a little bit of more space left between them. I'm not happy with that. So because I wrote my glass of milk, so I'm going to write dessert here. Away. Do any of you draw stars? They crack my head. I don't like them, but some people put them in. And for junior cycle, I think they're quite acceptable. It just means that you are distinguishing one course from the other. So we'll go back with our frozen full fat vanilla yogurt. And we said freshly sliced banana. See how descriptive we are. And I don't know if you have been this descriptive before. Freshly sliced banana and kiwi. So there's our first menu. And have we followed all the rules? Yes, we have. We've looked at the food pyramid, having 3 food groups at the main course, at least one other group in the dessert. We have very descriptive menu. We have methods of cooking, baked, baked. We have our healthy drink. We have space between our 2 courses, and we are child appropriate, or we are age appropriate. Small children like to be able to pick things off the plate. We've lovely colour, lovely variety, and I think we have nice textures there as well. So that's our first sample that we're going to look at. Now the second one we're going to look at is a high fibre breakfast. We noticed there, well I hope you noticed, they haven't asked a breakfast in a few years. We'll go back again. When was the last time a breakfast was asked? Back in 2022 was the breakfast. So that's what, 4 years ago? So we're going to go with the high fibre breakfast. Now, we're going to, when you say high fibre breakfast, we're going to go with maybe our food pyramid again. So what did our food pyramid say for breakfast? We must have at least once, so you need to learn this off, how many servings for each one. We need to have cereal group. We need to have dairy. We also need to make sure we've something for two at least from the fruit and vegetable group. If I were asked, I'll be honest with you, if I were asked for a breakfast on its own in the exam, I would probably include some kind of protein. I'll be honest. Now, if it was a daily menu, I would have protein at the lunch and at the dinner, but we don't want to eat too much protein. So I would put a bit of protein in here as well. So we'll start with our breakfast then. See, when I was saying earlier, some people write down bowl of muesli with banana and or sliced banana and milk. We need to be more descriptive than that. So we're going to write down now we'll do it in courses because they asked the last time. So we'll start with our first course then, and we'll go with homemade granola. And this is probably the most common mistake that people make, other than not having a healthy drink, and that is they are not breaking down what was in the salad or what was in the stir fry. So homemade granola, we'll have oats, we will have, what we have, almonds, hazelnuts, dried cranberries. I'm curious to know, have you been writing menus as detailed as this? Or are you just writing down like a homemade granola? So oats, almonds, hazelnuts, dried cranberries, and of course a little bit of honey. We wouldn't have our lovely toasted crunchy granola without a little bit of honey. And obviously then we're going to have milk in that one. So we're going to say full fat milk, or milk, just served with milk. So served with milk. Now, every course we have to have a healthy drink. Like I said earlier, I'm just allergic to a glass of orange juice. The glass of orange juice at breakfast, the bowl of muesli, it's a bit like the ham sandwich, the apple and the yogurt at lunchtime. It's so boring, right? So have a glass of maybe, I don't know, a carrot and apple juice would be very nice. A pomegranate, so lots of people juice in the morning. If you want, some people have smoothies in the morning. They might have a green smoothie, but I think a smoothie would be a bit heavy here. So I can go with a juice, like a fruit juice. Pomegranate juice, packed full of vitamin C. So I'm going to say here, I'll just put my healthy drink then. I'm going to say pomegranate juice, but I also might say high fibre breakfast. I might say a scrambled egg or a poached egg. So see, we are including methods of cooking. So poached egg on whole grain toast. And then don't forget our juice. We're going to have a glass of fresh pomegranate juice. Or we might have carrot and apple juice. Pomegranate would be an idea now if I could spell, wouldn't it? By the way, don't ever worry about your spellings. If you spell something incorrectly on home economics papers, you won't be docked marks. But as I was saying to even Leaving Certs last night, Make sure, I mean, lots of people are not very good at spelling. That doesn't mean that you're not bright or that you're not as intelligent as somebody else. You just have an issue with spelling. So you shouldn't be penalised for that. So if you're learning a word and your spellings aren't great, just make sure that it sounds like I remember years ago, I don't know, it's a long time back, it was an exam paper was correcting or leaving cert, and they wrote down Lasane. Now, that's not any word in the English language, but obviously they meant lasagna. But I got it because it sounded like. But if you make up some word, just like dream it up, and it resembles nothing like the sound of the word, well, obviously you're not going to get marks. So glass of fresh pomegranate juice. And if you don't want pomegranate juice, you might have just maybe carrot and apple juice, or a carrot, you know what is, I wouldn't mind now carrot and orange juice with a little bit of fresh ginger. What I'm really trying to get across is, can we just move away from the boring menus? Yes, of course, we have to follow the food pyramid, have our healthy drink, have our gap or our space between each course, make sure we've colour, variety, etc. But avoid the boring menus and be much more descriptive than students are. So that's our second one then, our high fibre breakfast. I think we've loads of fibre there. We've oats, we've almonds, we've hazelnuts, we've dried cranberries, we've got whole grain toast, and we have pomegranate juice as well, which without the seeds, I suppose it's not going to have a lot of fibre, but plenty of fibre in that menu. Now, I just said maybe I would try something different, a pregnant woman. Now, before I start writing, I have to think pregnant woman, and I'm going for a two-course menu for dinner menu for a pregnant woman. Now, pregnant women are not going to be having pavlova. They're not having pavlova anyway, because we said out of the treats, there's no treats of any description. But you're not going to give them something like a homemade mayonnaise because of raw eggs. Ideally, we're not going to have things like smoked salmon or, shellfish, things like that. You don't want them getting food poisoning, and there would be a risk of that. You don't want very hot, spicy. You're not going to give a peri-peri chicken to a pregnant woman. So think before you write. Make sure that the foods you're choosing are appropriate to the age. So what are we going to give them? What have I to think about first? I need to make sure that if it's a 2-course or a 3-course menu, that I have the courses in the correct order or sequence. So if I'm going for a main course and a dessert, I'll have my main course first. This time I'm going to be, and you'll use a ruler. The ruler here doesn't like me. I'm deadly serious. Watch this. I may be sorry I did this. Maybe it's going to be okay tonight. As soon as I say it doesn't like me, it might. See what I mean? Yeah, it doesn't like me. All right, it's okay tonight. So, main course, use a ruler. Then we're going to go well down the page, because remember we have to leave space. And we're going to have our dessert. Now, of course, you can do a starter. I just think personally that you end up with, it's easier. I just think it's easier. Right, there's our dessert. All right, that wasn't too bad. So main course and dessert, we're going to leave space. So I'm going to go and make sure I'm going to have lots of variety, lots of colour, lots of textures. If it's a main course, I need at least 3 of the main food groups. My dessert will have to have the 4th group. Ideally speaking, my main course, I should have my protein group, my cereal group. I want over the 2 courses, lots of fruit and vegetables, because 7 servings a day is quite a bit. So what are we going for? Method of cooking. Yeah, I don't want food that's very fatty, because of the fact as well that you can have morning sickness while you are indigestion. So I'm going with the grilled chicken escallop. Now some people might say, oh, I don't know what a scallop is, or do I have to do that? No, you don't. A chicken escallop is basically where you get a chicken fillet and you cut it down the middle and you literally fan it out. Some people call it chicken papper or pappardelle or whatever. Just a grilled chicken escallop. I'm going to have baked potato, or before my baked potato, either or, it's all the dinner. I'm going to say steamed because I want no fat. So methods of cooking are important to include steamed green vegetables. Now you know now at this stage, and we're not even on an hour, you know that I'm not going to leave it at that. I'm of course going to name some vegetables. So I'm going to say, what'll it be? Green beans, I think would be nice. And I love broccoli, I have to say. So green beans and broccoli. And then I'm having my baked potato. And I'm also having with that dinner, I'm going to have a glass of carrot and apple juice. Something light. Then I'm going to have a baked apple with cinnamon. And sultanas. Served with a vanilla yogurt. Not with ice cream. And I can't stand the custard as well. We're not going there either. So unless it's a homemade custard, if it was an older person. Now, I look back, how am I doing? My main course, I have chicken from the protein group. I have vegetables. I've listed them. I have a baked potato. So there's no fat. I've mentioned grilling, steaming, baking. I have a healthy drink because it's nice and light. I could have celery and apple. That's lovely as well, actually. Celery and apple might be nice here either. Carrot and apple. I have a space left between, and I'm actually going to do that to show that I have space between. I have the correct sequence. I have the main course before the dessert, and nothing in it is going to cause indigestion or heartburn. I feel it is balanced, and I most definitely have included 4 food groups between the 2 main courses, 3 in the main course, the dinner, the vegetables, the cereal, potato, and the chicken protein. And then I have more fruit in the next one, and I have my 4th food group, which is the yogurt. Right, we'll move on then. A family with young children. That has not been asked since 2021. And again, it's a 2-course dinner. So I'm going to start by putting in my main course. I'm going to go well down the page, and I'm going to go with a dessert. I'm going to attempt to take out my ruler, so it's much easier. I can tell you if you've got a physical ruler. Where is it? There it is. Bring it out. See, it doesn't like me. It can behave sometimes, and more times it doesn't. So I'm just going to draw a pretend straight line. Make sure you use a ruler. Presentation is important. Then it needs to be age appropriate. I need to make sure I have 3 of the main food groups. Family with the young children. So basically we're looking for food that everybody is going to like. We don't want it too babyish because, you know, then the adults are going to say, no, I don't want that kind of food. So we need kind of like what I would call a universal dinner. And is there anything better sometimes than a pasta bake? I have to say I do make a nice pasta bake. I actually put very nice Italian herbs into it, just a small amount, but you know, people do like it. I like bits of rasher. We're not putting rasher in here. So we're going with a chicken pasta bake. I think it's a good one. So chicken pasta bake with broccoli. Now, that is not enough vegetables, can I tell you here now? And of course, you know, at this stage, I'm not happy with just pasta. So I'm going to put in brackets whole wheat pasta. So whole wheat pasta penne with broccoli, and we're going to have corn on the cob, and we're going to have it grilled. We're not going to use black. There isn't enough vegetables. Some people think that's enough. It's not. So grilled corn on the cob. Everyone loves that. And children particularly like it when they have to stick in the sticks. So grilled corn on the cob. And so I've chicken, I've pasta, I've broccoli and corn on the cob. Right, and I've said what the pasta is. If you wanted, you could have a small side salad. So a small side salad, so not something huge. And, you know, we're just going to have a little bit of rocket. So the children mightn't eat it, but the parents might. So rocket, cucumber, fine tomatoes. There's nothing, and a little bit of French dressing. I hope you can see that being descriptive is good. In terms of a drink, can anyone suggest what we're going to have? We're having fruit kebabs, which are basically skewers, with cubes of melon. Whole strawberries are lovely. Of course we'd have a nice chocolate sauce here, but it's not happening because it's not that treat day. So melon, strawberries and banana. We're back, of course, vanilla flavoured yogurt. So it's not that we're repeating ourselves, it's just yogurt is a great one, and especially the fact that it's flavoured. Could anyone suggest a drink? We need to leave a little bit of space, but I'm going to have the drink while I'm having. Think about what would you have? You have a chicken pasta bake, you've corn on the cob, little side salad, because everyone doesn't have to eat, and even children can eat salad. Fruit kebabs, vanilla flavoured yogurt. Any suggestions for a drink here? I could even just go with a glass of water. Right, now the last one then before we finish up, a child packed lunch. We're going with, if it's a packed lunch, we'll divide it in parts. First of all, we need a cereal, a small wholemeal pita bread, because it's a child. Grilled chicken. With hummus. Delicious. Then we're going to have cubes of cheddar cheese. Seedless grapes. Small carton of milk, which should be in a different colour, but anyway. And a small homemade flapjack. And I'm going to change that because I did say we'd keep, so small carton of milk. I'll just put little bits in between to leave space. And there we go. So we have our chicken from our protein. We have our pita for our cereal. We have some hummus, which is lovely and tasty, but it's nice too in the pita bread. We've cheddar cheese, we've got grapes, we've got flapjack. Now, I think we need something more in terms of the hummus, of course, will be chickpeas. We've got grapes. We need more fruit. So we might have a small homemade flapjack with cranberries and sultanas, because I don't think there's enough fruit in that particular menu. So that is it. We've our 5 sample menus. I hope you found that helpful, and make sure that you go over it. I'll be putting this up on the platform tomorrow, and best of luck with your menu in June. And if you have one in your mock paper for your junior cycle, hope you've picked up a few tips. The other thing I'd say to you, if there are any specific topics that you want me to cover, I'm happy to cover anything. All you have to do is email me, sandra@gwines360.ie. I'll be happy to do that. So thanks very much for checking in, and best of luck with the studies, and keep a cool head now for the mocks, and most importantly, try and enjoy your midterm break, because it'll be head down until June after your midterm break. So good evening. Thanks a million.